Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion on this beautiful Thursday morning. And when we look back to yesterday, we finally had a really solid, strong day, something that people were looking for in September. We've had a little bit of a waning, moving down, and some concerns. And some of this is sort of just normal and some of it's not. But yesterday, we had a pretty nice day. As a matter of fact, you look over at the Dow, and the Dow started off fairly flat. That's sort of been sort of the modus operandus that we've been seeing of late. It's been kind of quiet in the pre-markets, and that's exactly what we had. We had a move to the upside. We slid a little bit to the downside, and then we absolutely took off to the races and actually closed near the highs of the day, up 236 points. The NASDAQ just was powering all throughout the day. It opened relatively flat, and then all of a sudden the acceleration continued for the entire trading session to close near the highs of the day there as well, about 124 points to the upside. So a really nice, solid performance across both those two major indices. And that's something we hadn't seen for a while. Crude up over 72, up over 72.50, had a really nice day. That absolutely was reflected by what we were seeing in the energy space when we look over at energy up nearly 4%. But you look over at the beta side of that, the XOP, that was up nearly 6% yesterday. So when we talk about these beta and that movement that you get, that accelerated move both up and down, the XOP certainly has those names. And I'm going to focus on a couple of those names in just a minute. But the 10-year back up near that 1.3. That's something we'd slipped below. Now back up close to that 1.3 level. Volatility index had shrunk a little bit the day before, shrunk a little bit more, a little bit tighter, 18s, 19s. We actually closed somewhere in the lower 18s. Volume, 38 million contracts. Volume continues to be there. So we talk about volatility, we talk about volume, we talk about velocity. The velocity of the day was to the upside. And it wasn't just energy, it was industrials, materials, financials, all of those up over 1%. And technology had a pretty decent day as well. Nearly 1% move to the upside. Semiconductors, I can keep pointing this out. I don't think it's talked about enough. The semiconductor index, I know it's a subsector, but you look at the SMH and you see a really nice performance again and new highs again. So a very, very impressive move to the upside. The standouts in that energy space, as I said, turned out to be a lot of those beta names. Chevron had a wonderful day as well, but you look at EOG and Marathon and Diamondback and COG and Devon and all those names, they were all up 7% or more yesterday. So a really, really incredible performance. Walgreens Boots. This is a name that we don't talk about a whole lot. It's a name that I actually have in my portfolio, but it had a really nice day as well, actually closing up on the day up over 4%. Chinese names continue to be under fire, continue to get hit. Casinos continue to get hit. Why are the casinos? The exposure, obviously, clearly, especially when you look at Wynn and Las Vegas Sands, a lot of that exposure to Macau and so forth. Macau certainly is what's causing a lot of this bumping and moving, and especially to the downside pressure we've seen. Wynn was down about 6%. Las Vegas Sands, not nearly as bad. It was down. It actually recovered a little bit, and MGM was down as well, probably on sentiment. So we got a calm start to the day today. Early on, the futures were off. But when we started to get some of the numbers, and that's what we oftentimes are waiting for in the mornings, we had the jobless claims, but it really was more about the retail sales numbers stronger than expected. You take a look over at the pre-markets, we actually were up in positive territory, up about 10 points on the Dow, which was a recovery from the lows, and we were still off on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ seems like a negative territory in the pre-market and as we get into the day, and I've seen it as low as 100 points on the day. Last I looked, it was down about 70 or 80 points. The Dow, on the other hand, had a nice little early move to the upside, up 60 points, up 50 points, up 80 points. Boy, did that flip. The next thing you know, we're down nearly 100 points in the first half hour. You flash forward to a half hour later, right before we came on here, down about 170 points. So some serious pressure being put on the markets, both on the Dow and on the NASDAQ. Triple-digit losses last I looked. So we started to see a little bit of a slip also in crude. Crude actually was right around that 72 level, pulled back underneath 72. You had the 10-year actually up a little bit at 133. And we had volatility starting to trade up a little bit as well. Not over 20, but 19s in the low 19s is certainly upper 18s, lower 19s, middle 19s. That's where we seem to find ourselves as far as the volatility index. And again, That 20 level just seems to be an area that even when we do burst through it, we do not last very long up above 20 before we come right back down into the teens. So early morning movers. Financials started off decent. They were up about 0.5%. They went negative. Materials, energy, technology, all of those under a little bit of pressure. Materials and energy definitely negative. Last I looked, they were down about 1%. I looked over at tech, down about 0.6%. So a little bit of pressure there. And when we talk about materials, a lot of that is really focused right on one single name. Take a look at Freeport-McMoRan, down about 6%. Those casinos, once again, some heavy push to the downside, down 3% or so for both Wynn and Las Vegas Sands, and the Chinese names. Trip.com, kind of the leader of those Chinese names. It was down nearly 3% early on. So let's get to a little bit of unusual. I got nothing as far as CNBC goes until tomorrow night. I'll be on the Fast Money show, but I'm not back on halftime until Monday. So got a little bit of a break here for a little while anyway. So we'll see. So the unusual I've got for you today is just now and nothing at half. GPS, the gap. Now, we were just talking about that. We wish they might have had a different symbol, but that is the symbol that Gap's had for a long time. Stock's trading 24.5. So what are they buying? 3,700 of the September. That means we're expiring tomorrow. The 24.5 calls. So basically just taking a shot right here, right now, that this is a stock that's going to make a little bit of a move from where it is right now and maybe burst up to the upside. Those options were only costing about 25 cents up to about 30 cents, a little bit more than 30 cents. And they were right at that 24.5 strike, as I mentioned. DoorDash, now this one's pretty interesting. Dash, this is also expiring tomorrow, but we're seeing a double buyer here. You know, sometimes they used to call that a call stupid. Well, it's only stupid if it goes to the downside. It could be pretty great if it goes to the upside. We'll see what happens. They bought 4,400 of the September 220 calls. Started out at $2.80, went all the way up to over $5. Then a buyer of 4,600 of the September 225 calls. Those were $1.37 up to about $2.90. So buying of both those calls in the very, very short term, looking for some kind of a move to the upside. Obviously, you've got today and tomorrow. That's it. And we know that we're looking at a pretty interesting red tape. We've seen a lot of reversals, though. So maybe we'll see some of that. But very, very interesting to see this early paper in DoorDash as well. Symbol Dash, D-A-S-H. So last thing I got for you is this. We still have a couple of bronze. You know, there's different levels of tickets for our October 1st and 2nd in Las Vegas at the Aria, this big deal that we've got going there. We're really excited about it. Got a number of unbelievable speakers. That's going to be really a lot of fun. It's always been fun in the past. We're going back to Vegas. We finally get to go there. And last year was all virtual. We do have virtual tickets as well. So if you want virtual, you can get them. If you want the bronze, you can get them. Anything else, you cannot. It's all sold out. But we're really, really excited about that. And you've only got a couple of weeks before we're going to be hitting that road and flying out there to Vegas and having a great time. And hopefully a lot of folks can learn a lot from all these wonderful speakers we've got. Folks, have a great day of trading. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you tomorrow.